Hi and welcome back to Darvanalee Designs Studio. For those that don't know, my name's Nicole Reed and today we are working on block 9 from our foundation papers piecing series for 2019. So today we're going to be working on the Starburst block, and as you can see it looks very complicated, but I can assure you that it's not. So let's get started. Okay, so we're at block 9 and we are making the Starburst block. You're going to need the fabric that you've been using throughout the season. You're also going to need some quilting rulers, a rotary cutter, a hand press, which I like to use, or you can just use your regular iron. You don't necessarily need that. You're going to need a glue stick, some thread snips, some pins, and a pair of paper scissors because we don't want to use our fabric scissors on paper and we are cutting through a bit of paper. Then you're going to head over to the blog that I've got listed down underneath this video. You're going to download your template pieces, and you've also got a layout sheet there and a colouring page if you want to experiment with some colours, and you can print them off as many times as you want. Alrighty, so I'm going to move all this out of the way and we're going to get started on assembling our block. Okay, so off camera I've cut out all my templates just to save us a little bit of time. Takes about 10 minutes to cut them all out. Now you can see that you've got your template, so if you're new here, your template has got some light shading and some dark shading, and these are representing the colours that that we're using, because we're just using contrasting at the moment. So I'm using white for the background, and wherever it is white on my template, that's where I'm going to put my background. The light grey is representing our light color that we're using, and the dark gray is representing the dark. So in my case, my light fabric is the red and my dark fabric is the black. Okay, so I've got my fabric together and I've gone through my scraps, and I don't really have any of these sharp angles, so I've cut some extra fabric off and we're just going to get started. So basically what you're going to do is you're just going to take your template and you're going to start at A1 like we always do. And if you're only new here, we do have another 8 blocks that go with this series, and they're in a playlist, and it is called 2019 Block of the Month Foundation Paper Piecing, and you'll be able to find that under playlists on our channel. So we're going to start here, and this one's telling me that it is a red piece that we're going to start with. So I'm going to flip that block over, grab my glue pen, and I'm just going to put a little bit of a dollop of glue there. And then I'm just going to lay my fabric on there. Now I can see the line. You probably can't see it on camera, but in person I can actually see the line there, so I can make sure that that fabric is covering that angle really well. Then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to take my piece of template plastic that I've used with every block, and I'm just going to flip this back. Now throughout the series, in the beginning of the series, I was using just quilting rulers, and you can continue to do that. But in the Sew Sampler box, I ended up getting an at a quarter, and we now stock these on our website as well. And we've got 12-inch ones and the 6-inch ones. Ours are yellow. This one happens to be pink, but it's got a little lip on it, so you can just put that up against the edge of the paper there, and you can see it won't go any further. It grabs onto that template plastic and to the paper. And now I can grab my rotary cutter and I can just cut that excess off, and I know that that is a 1/4 inch seam. What I'm going to do is A2, it's calling for white, so I'm just going to flip that over, and then I'm going to get a piece of my white fabric and I'm just going to lay that on there. And because they're bigger pieces of fabric, I'm just going to grab a couple of pins and pin that into place just so it doesn't move on me. So now what we're going to do is we're going to flip that back over, and then we're going to stitch on this line here. Don't forget to reduce your stitch length down to probably around a 2, and it makes the stitches a little bit smaller, but it makes it easier to get this paper off later down the track. So we've sewn that on, and I've just used black thread today so you can see where I've sewn. So I've just sewn on that line. I've just started a little bit into that one, and I've gone a little bit into the seam allowance, and that way I know that I'm going to get a nice crisp point when I flip this over. So we'll take our pins out, and then we'll just roll our fabric over, and that's when I grab my little hand press and I just give it a little bit of a press. So we've got a nice little angle happening there. Okay, so I'm going to grab my template plastic. I'm going to place that on where A2 meets A3, And I'm just going to place that on there like so, and I'll just grab my 1/4 inch and trim off that excess. There we go. And now we are ready to attach the black. So I'll grab some black fabric, and then I'm just going to line it up on that edge there. Again, we've got some bigger pieces of fabric here, so I'm just going to put a couple of pins in, and that's just going to hold everything in place for me and it won't shift around. Head over to the sewing machine again, and I'll show you which line you're going to stitch on. You're going to stitch on this line here, so it goes right from this corner right up here, and it connects A1 and A2 to A3. So that's all stitched into place. So take the pins out, and now we're just going to roll that over again, and we're going to give that a bit of a press. Flipping that over, and then we're going to line up our template plastic where A3 meets A4. We're going to bring that back over again, grab our 1/4 ruler, and just get rid of some of this excess fabric and create our 1/4 inch seam allowance as well. Alright, so the next colour that we need is white. So we're going to flip that over. So we're going to lay that down, and then we're just going to place our white fabric on that raw edge there, and you can see there that that is going to be plenty, but I'm just going to bring it up just a little bit because I'm just a little bit concerned about this part up here, because this is the area that we want to cover, all this area here. So popping a pin in again just to hold those big pieces of fabric in place. And then we're going to head over to the sewing machine, and we're going to stitch this line here. Okay, so we've sewn that into place. Remove your pins, and again fold your fabric over, and you can see there we're getting some nice points there. And we've got enough room, a 1/4 inch seam allowance, when we go to sew the other templates to it. Alrighty, so we've got that in place. We're going to flip it over again, and then we're going to get rid of some of these long strangly bits, and then we're going to grab our template plastic, and we're going to line up against A5. Flip that back, and you can see there that's going to get rid of all that excess fabric there. That out of the way. And the next color we're attaching is red, so we're going to flip that over, grab our red fabric, and we're going to place that on the raw edge there, and we're going to pin that into place. And then head over to the sewing machine and stitch right along here, so right along that edge there. We've done that, and now we're just going to flip that back over. We're going to press that down, and we're going to flip it over, and we're going to put our last piece of fabric on, which is A6. So laying that template plastic on that last line there, pulling your paper back out of the way, placing your 1/4 on, and cutting that off. Alright, so we've got this little piece of scrap white here, and that should cover it just nicely. And I always just do a little bit of a test. Yep, that's going to go over it. Pop a couple of pins in. And then we're going to head over to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch on that last line. Last piece is sewn in. Again, we're just going to flip that fabric across. And now we can trim off all the excess fabric. So flipping it over. So we're just going to rotate that around. Going to grab our ruler and you're going to place your 1/4 inch mark. And I like to use these rulers here because you can see there's a nice solid line for that 1/4 inch. And I'm going to line that up on the inner line of the block. And then so the edge of the ruler is on that outside line, which is a thinner, lighter color of line. And we just take that off. And we just do that all the way around, making sure that everything's sitting nice and flat. So again, we just place that 1/4 inch mark on that dark inner line, the edge of the ruler on the outer light line, and we just get rid of all that excess fabric. Alright, so that is part A, and you're going to repeat that with part B, C and D, and then we'll be back here for assembly. Okay, so I've put all that together and now we're ready for final assembly of the block. So you've got your layout sheet, so just set that off to the side for yourself so you've got it as a reference, and then you're going to take block A and pop that down, and then you'll just find block B, block C, and then block D. And you can see there that like we've put a lot of effort and work into putting all that together, and it just goes together so easily. So all you got to do now is take A and B and place them on top of each other, and then what you're going to do is pop a couple of pins or wonder clips, which is pretty much what I use these days. Just easier than trying to get the pins through the paper. And then you're going to stitch on this line all the way down. Now don't forget to reverse at the beginning and at the end. Alright, so that is now sewn together, and you want to have one seam going this way, okay, and when we put these ones together we're going to have the seam going that way. So basically we just do the same thing again on top of one another, grab a couple of wonder clips, place that, make sure that none of your fabric is curling up and your raw edges are aligning, and then you're going to stitch along here. So that one's done, and we're pushing the seam to go this way. And now all we need to do, left to do, is basically just add these two to each other. So again, we bring the top one down over the bottom one, and then you can see here I'm nesting my seams. And I will just grab a wonder clip to pop on there because there is a little bit of bulk with all those points coming in. And we just want to make sure that all our raw edges are aligning. Pop another wonder clip there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to head to the sewing machine and you're going to stitch right along that last line, and then our block will be finished. Alright, and that's it. Our block is done. Give that a really good press and you can set that aside with the others. Okay, so thank you very much for joining us today. I really do hope you enjoyed making the Starburst block. It's a gorgeous block. I just love it, and I'm thinking that I'm going to do a whole quilt like this one day. So if you like this video today, give it a thumbs up down below, hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon beside it, and that way you won't miss out on any future posts. And for those that don't know, my name's Nicole Reed, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye for now.